If you think it's easy cashing in on MLB while everyone's paying attention to football, just think about how much easier it is to cash in on the NPB and the KBO. That's right, Asian baseball. Hey, that money is all going to spend the same. And we got 4 free plays coming your way in both of those leagues. I'm Dan Alexander, and joining me up first is the expert, Tokyo Brandon. He wants to talk a little Japanese baseball action, and let's get right into it. 2 free plays for the folks. The first in the Yomiuri Giants and the Hanshin Tigers. What are we betting here, buddy?
Yeah, so the Tigers are running away with the championship. They're 13 games in first place.
Mm.
I think their magic number is now down to 9. With 15 games left, all they have to do is win 9, and they clinched the championship of the Central League. But they're still playing well, and they're still playing hard. And they're at home here. They're one of the best home teams in Japan. Their home field is Koshien, which some of you might have heard of. It's the mecca of Japanese baseball fields. It's where the high school baseball tournament is played. It's just the field of dreams for Japanese baseball. They're a great home team. And this is the Yankees versus Red Sox rivalry of Japanese baseball. The Yomiuri Giants, of course, being the Yankees because they buy all the players. They have a terrible farm system and they just buy everyone's players because they have more money than everyone. And then the Hanshin Tigers would be the Boston Red Sox because they went a long drought before they won a championship about 6 years ago. Finally, they got the monkey off their back, and they're actually really hot right now. I like the pitcher for the Tigers going tomorrow. His name is Saiki. He had one bad start where he gave up 7 runs, but besides that start, he's given up 0, 1, 0 in his last 3. And Tigers bullpen. Tigers have won 10 in a row for the second time this season. I think they'll make it 11 in a row tomorrow because they hate the Giants. And they usually play well against them. They play well at home. They play well against the Giants. They have the number 1 bullpen in Japan, and they have the better starter in this game. So I really like the Hanshin Tigers to win this game. I looked up the odds. It was minus 140. It's a little steep, but most books will allow you to do a -1. I know that the main books and the DraftKings that I get my numbers from let you do a -1. -1 is a safe way to make a bet. If your team wins by 1 run, you don't lose your money, but it's a push. So it's a lot safer than doing the run line -1.5. And if you win by 2, you get your money just like a regular run line. So I would recommend doing a -1 with the Hanshin Tigers here. And Saiki, backed by the best bullpen in Japan, on a team that's won 10 in a row. I think they stomp the Yomiuri Giants tomorrow.
The Tigers over the Giants, says our man Tokyo Brandon. You can check him out at wagertalk.com. And are you betting Asian baseball? If so, we want to know what your best bet is. All right, Brandon, you got one more for the folks. Chunichi Dragons and the Yokohama BayStars. How are we attacking this one?
Yes. Yokohama BayStars, Trevor Bauer's team. Unfortunately, Trevor Bauer's out for the season. He tore a ligament last week, so he's gone for the season. And I don't know if it's karma or what, but since he's been out, this DNA BayStars team cannot hit. They have, in their last 4 games, they've scored 1, 6, 1, 0. So they are not scoring at all. And they're playing a team with a really good bullpen and a terrible lineup in Chunichi Dragons. Both of these starters are good. Yokohama's starter is a little bit better. His name is Azuma. He's got a 2.11 ERA on the season, and in 2 starts against Chunichi, he has a 1.13 ERA. But I normally would take Yokohama to win the game, but the way their lineup is hitting, I just don't trust them. So I'm going to look at an under here, and I've seen some less savory books with some early lines out. It looks like this one's going to come out at 6.5, and I think that's a gift. If you see a 6.5 in this game, definitely bet the under. We have 1 great bullpen, 1 terrible lineup, and 2 good starting pitchers. So usually, to me, that equals an under. And Chunichi Dragons are the best under team in Japan. They're actually scoring 2.1 runs per game in their last 2 weeks, which is really pathetic. And I don't think Azuma is going to give them that many runs. This looks like a 2-1, 3-1, 2-0 kind of game to me. So if you see a 6.5 in this, definitely take the under. Even if you see a 6 in this, I definitely would bet an under in the Yokohama BayStars Chunichi Dragons game tonight.
We're going under in the Dragons and the BayStars. And before that, we were looking at the Hanshin Tigers. 2 free plays coming your way from one of the hottest handicappers at WagerTalk.com. Number 2 over the last week. So make sure you check him out. And also, throw him a like. Hit that subscribe button as a big thanks to Tokyo Brandon joining us, getting you some free winners right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And if you like what we do, hop below in the comments and let us know. Adam Trigger still to come with some KBO action right here on WagerTalk Extra. You're ready to go in NPB, so let's get ready to go in KBO with my man, Adam Trigger. Trig, let's get right into it. Talk my SSG Landers as they're taking on the Doosan Bears. We already have lines up on this one, and I'm wondering how you're going to be betting this.
Well, Dan, your SSG Landers are in a little bit of trouble, but I do like them in this spot, and I'll explain why. So the SSG Landers, last year's defending champions, and a team that led the vast majority of the early part of this season, have now fallen to 5th place, and they're just 2 games ahead of the Doosan Bears, the 6th place team, for that final playoff spot. So, like, the tables have really turned on SSG, going from last year's regular season and Korean Series champs to now having to fight for their lives just to get in the playoffs. But I do think that yesterday's rain out and the loss to start the week to KT might serve as a little bit of a wake-up call for this Landers team. So, you know, like I said, the team chasing them right now, the 6th place team is Doosan. They're 2 games back. So this is, you know, and we're getting down to the end of the season. We're now past the regular season. So now we're into the stage of the game where we're just making up the rained out games. So there's only a handful of games left, you know, at this point, maybe another week or 2 of games. And so this is really going to have like a playoff feel tonight. In Seoul, it's a huge game for both teams. Of course, if Doosan can win, they'll pull to within a game of a playoff spot. And if the SSG Landers can win, they'll sort of hold on to that 5th spot. I like the Landers in this spot for a couple of reasons. One, I just think that the day off gives them a chance to regroup. And if you look at the bullpens on these 2 teams and the high leverage relief arms, SSG's got the better late inning arms, you know, at the front end of this bullpen. So I think the fact they got rained out yesterday helps SSG in that regard. Second reason I like SSG here is you're going to have the Landers sort of full lineup back intact. Shin-Soo Choo got the day off on Tuesday, presumably because he was facing Wes Benjamin, one of the toughest left-handed pitchers in the league. And now he's sort of had back-to-back days off. I expect him back in the leadoff spot, and that really will get their lineup to go. You know, the part of the reason that SSG had such a free fall here in the second half was that they missed Guillermo Heredia, their import bat and one of the best offensive players in this league. He's hitting .340 this year with an .883 OPS. He missed over a month. So, you know, that really started, you know, when SSG started to slide was when he was out of the lineup. You put him back in the lineup in the 3-hole, and it helps Choi Jong. You know, sometimes they'll hit 1-3, 1-4, but the point is having them coupled in the lineup really sort of makes them both more effective. It's protection, you know, in this SSG lineup, which made them one of the best lineups in the league through the first half of the season. As far as the pitching is concerned here, on this, you know, starting pitching is concerned here, Ruinus Elias for SSG, he doesn't have the best stuff when you're talking about like import starters in this league, but he's very consistent, very steady, 3.77 ERA. Doesn't tend to really get crushed. You know, he's had a couple of outlier bad starts. Even if you look at his last month, there was one bad start against Kia. The other 3 have been very strong. I think he's a far better starting pitching option than Seung-Young Choi for Doosan. He's a guy, he's 22 years old. The Bears have not really figured out what they want to do with him yet. He's probably more effective out of the bullpen. As a starter, he's very average, tends to only last like 4 or 5 innings. So I just think when you ball it all up here and then you sort of factor in the magnitude of this game, it reminds me a lot of Kia last year when they had a little bit of a losing streak and then they got to the game where they sort of needed to win to hold on to that fifth spot. I think the 3-0 loss on Tuesday is going to serve as a big-time wake-up call for SSG. They know they need this win. Everything stacks up better for them to win from pitching top to bottom. And I just think that minus 145, given all those circumstances, is actually a little bit cheap. So I'm going to lay it here with the Landers. Minus 140, minus 145 looks good here. I think they get it done.
You don't have to tell me twice to be backing one of the sweetest logos in sport. Laying the price with our SSG Landers. It's at least Triggs SSG Landers for one day. All right, Trey, let's talk a little LG and NC Dinos. Again, lines up on this one already. Love getting this early look for the folks. How are you looking to bet this one?
Yeah, so there's a huge scheduling edge here to LG, Dan. They haven't had to play yet this week. Remember, as I said, if you're betting KBO, you better comb through the schedule right now because not everyone is playing every day. We're in the part of the season where we're just making up the rained out games. So you're going to have scenarios like, for example, Hanwha. They played on Tuesday. They're not going to play again until Friday. LG hasn't played since Sunday, but NC has already played 2 games this week. And I think it's really important to know that, especially when you're dealing with an NC Dinos team that's now kind of been in like 2 sort of tough battles and, will be playing their 3rd game in 3 days against an LG team that hasn't played since Sunday, has a very deep bullpen, entirely rested, and can really sort of, go at it here with their full complement of players. They can do whatever they want with their pitching here. And they're probably not going to need to do anything other than trot Casey Kelly out there and ride him to another good start. Casey Kelly, if you've been following KBO since we started talking about this regularly in the pandemic, he's a household name. He's been in the league for 5 years. Over the 5 years, 3.11 ERA, 1.18 WHIP. He's been one of the best starters in this league for the past half decade. But Dan, he hasn't had a great season. It's been by far his worst year in the KBO of any of the 5 years. But with that being said, he's had a little bit of a resurgence of late. He's really bounced back. His last 3 starts, 19 innings pitched, just 1 earned run. He's starting to look like the Casey Kelly of old, the one that's been so dominant in this league for years. LG enters play in first place. They have a 5-game lead, but they've lost 3 straight. And if you're not familiar with how this league sets up for the playoffs, winning the league in the regular season is so important because you get a bye right to the finals, right to the Korean series, which is their version of the World Series. So these games are massive for LG. Like, don't let that 5-game lead in the league right now fool you from how important these games are for LG, especially for the Twins, who haven't won a title since 1994 and have a history of blowing it in the playoffs. There is absolutely nothing LG would like more than to close out this lead and then get the bye right to the Korean series, which has eluded them the past couple of years. They've gotten knocked out before getting to the final. And like I said, they've got one of the bigger droughts going in sports in terms of they haven't won this thing in a 10-team league with all the success they have. To have not won since 1994 is a little bit of a cursed scenario. So they'd love to go right to the championship series. The team that's pressing them, NC, has now won 3 straight. They're only 5.5 back, right up there with the KT Wiz, who are 4.5 back. So, this is a head-to-head game where they're feeling the pressure. And as good as NC's played, they're 8-2 in their last 10 games. Very scrappy team. I just don't think that they have the personnel in the pitching department to hang with Casey Kelly and a rested Twins bullpen. You're going to have Jayhawk Lee here. At 32 years old, he's having the best season of his career in KBO. Sort of an anomaly. It's just he's figured something out where he's been able to put together a year with a 4.05 ERA and a 1.22 WHIP. But I will point out with Jayhawk Lee is he rarely goes deep into games. He's a 4 or 5 inning guy, and then he's out of there. And I think that really hurts NC, who's had to use some key bullpen arms the past 2 days in what were 2 close games. So it is just such a better setup here for LG. I think because they're on the road, you're getting that sort of discounted price. Minus 150 for Casey Kelly seems like a bargain here. I just don't see any way LG doesn't see this win out with all the advantages they have in this game.
In a lower volume market, a chance to get some great numbers and something that the odds makers probably don't have on in the risk room. That's why we bet Asian baseball here. That's Adam Trigger. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. And that does it here for another edition of WagerTalk Extra. Big thanks to Tokyo Brandon and Adam Trigger. You want to say thanks to them? Outside of grabbing the great specials over at WagerTalk.com, all we ask for is a like. Hit that little bell and tell folks about what we do here at WagerTalk TV, because even in Asian baseball, we got all the tools you need to bet all the sports you love just a click away on WagerTalk TV.